Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Carter, the model investor. This is video number 2. Um, I want to talk today about the most frequently asked question that I get, which is how did I get into real estate investing? I know everyone's journey and how they ended up doing what they're doing is very different. And for me, it all kind of happened rather quickly. I don't know if any of you have seen my first video, but as some of you may know, I started modeling at a very young age. I managed to save up some money in my 20s. And like any 20-year-old, I wasn't really thinking long term, and I didn't invest my savings. I had a stock portfolio for a while, which I didn't really understand like how that all worked at the time, and it was just kind of frustrating. And I ended up kind of putting my money in the bank, and it just sat there in a low interest rate savings account until I moved to New York in 2010, so 10 years ago, to pursue modeling. I was living in Japan as a model. I wanted to come to New York. And having money sitting in a bank account is probably not ideal when you're in your late 20s. Well, I was 30 when I moved to New York, but so I quickly started to spend it. And 5 years passed. We get to 2015, and work had been good, but New York's expensive. I was shopping a lot and traveling, and the money was just there, and I kind of thought it would always just come and it would always just be there. I can't really explain the thinking behind it because it doesn't make any sense to me now. But anyway, I burnt through most of that money. And so when I started to work well again, like about 5 years ago, I was able to save up some money again, and I was like, right, this is kind of like my second opportunity. It was like my second chance to really do something with this small amount of savings and make it work for me, because like a lot of models, and I'm lucky that I'm still able to model at my age, but I know it's always a concern for models. What are we going to do after? How are we going to maintain that lifestyle when we can't work anymore? And it's hard. So I started researching. I was open to anything. I thought maybe I should start a business. Maybe I should move to a different city. Maybe I should move back to Japan. Maybe I should open an agency. I mean, I was throwing all the ideas out there just to try and think of something that I could do with my money. And then I read an article on Facebook. Thanks, Facebook. Something along the lines of why everyone should invest in real estate, or the return. I don't know, something about returns, and kind of piqued my interest. And I thought, okay, this is something that maybe I could work with. It made sense than a few of the other options that I was throwing around in my mind. So I started kind of looking further into it. Everything was new to me, of course, because New Zealand, Japan. I spent a lot of time in Japan. Banks, how foreigners can buy property, mortgages, credit, insurance, all of these things. It's all very different. So I had to sort of learn everything from scratch. I'd never had a mortgage. I'd never applied for one. There was just so much to learn. So I started reading every book that I could get my hands on that covered every aspect of real estate investing. I didn't know if it was going to be commercial. I didn't know if it was going to be mobile homes, single families, multifamily. I didn't even know what all that stuff sort of meant. So I gave myself a crash course education in that over a couple of months, and then I started to realize that it was something that definitely could work with kind of what I had and the time that I had, and it really excited me and interested me, which was important because I hadn't had good success with the stock market. So this was something that I was like, okay, I started to kind of dig deeper. And the next thing was where am I going to buy these rental properties that are going to give me so much return over all the years, and where am I going to build this appreciation and cash flow? I was living in Manhattan at the time, so I didn't have the luxury of just being able to invest in my neighborhood. So I had to start looking further out. I read another article, or I Googled something like, where's the best place to invest in rental properties in the US, or something crazy. And this whole list popped up. It was a Forbes article, like 2016, like best markets to invest in. Then I started kind of picking through those, and then kind of ended up gravitating towards Fort Worth, Texas. I liked Texas. I thought one day I would move to Dallas or something. There was a point in time when that was kind of a thought. And so I started looking more into that market. I can do a whole nother video on that whole experience. And people in Texas are really nice and really great to deal with. But cut another long story short, I ended up purchasing a property there about 3 or 4 months later. It all happened quite quickly. I probably rushed it. Kind of once I got the ball rolling and I talked to a lender, and we figured out how much I could afford to buy. That was kind of like this great, like the racing flag, like go, and I just kind of went for it. And looking back now, even though it's only 3 years ago, I look back like, I was such a rookie then. I've learned so much in the last 3 years. But I could have taken my time and probably got a better deal. It was a really hot market at the time, and there were multiple offers, and my offer was accepted, but it was for asking price. It's like all the things that you read about not to do now. But the calculations made sense. I could afford the home. It cash flow, the cash on cash return for anyone that's interested was still 10%. I was making like $300 a month off my investment or something, which seems low to me now because I'm in a much higher cash flowing market where I invest now. But it was a good entry, I think, into investing, and it was safe. It's always, there's always risk with investing, right? So you can calculate, and I'd figured all that out, but at some point you just kind of have to take the plunge and do it. And with this property, I had great tenants. My agent was really easy and really nice to work with, and we had no problem keeping it rented. I recently sold it, actually like 3 months ago, for $40,000 more than I'd paid for it. The reason I sold it, it's a great property, but I wanted to reinvest the money in my higher cash flowing market, like I'd mentioned earlier. Otherwise, I probably would have just kept it. Just barely any maintenance, and the market's still appreciating a little bit. And it was a really great little house. But one thing that surprised me actually was closing costs. I hadn't calculated quite how much that would be. So I was kind of, that costs quite a lot. So that was a learning experience. But I think, the most important thing was that I took the step to do it. And I talked to a lot of real estate investors that are like, I want to research this more, or what if this happens, or, for like 2 or 3 years they're going over these questions in their head. And I don't think you'll ever know everything. You kind of do have to jump in at one point and just learn it through the experience. I mean, you have to calculate the risk and all of that, but I think at some point you just have to be like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And Chicken Little is always going to be in your head saying, you can't do this, or I don't know, like, is this a good idea? Should you wait? There's always something better. But at some point, you just have to do it. So I'm grateful for Texas for that. I'm also grateful that I found this strategy of investing. Real estate, I love it. I'm hooked. I plan to do it forever. And I just kind of wish I'd thought about this sooner, like back in my 20s when I was spending all that money. But nevertheless, I managed to get to where I am now, and that's fine. Someone said, Lewis Glickman, he's an investor, said, the best investment on earth is earth. And I thought that was kind of cool. So obviously I'm very pro real estate investing. But that's about it. I think I've babbled on for long enough. Just checking that I haven't forgotten anything here. No, that's about it. Oh, and my dog just says it's time. She wants to make an appearance. There she goes. She's been very quiet, so that's, I guess, my time's up. But stay tuned. I want to do my next video will be if this wild bear that lives in my house doesn't eat me alive. I want to do a video on out-of-state investing, of course, and that's a big one. Also, I'll do some more videos on kind of more calculated things and go into detail with some of the projects and some of the purchases that I've made too, just so it's more interesting. But I just wanted to cover this kind of background story and kind of so you can get to know me a little bit. But yeah, thank you for hanging in there and watching. I will post again in a week, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me babble on. And yeah, I will hope to have you back here again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.